All right, moving right along with our Unit 5, all about agriculture and that sort of stuff. So for the unit, I thought I'd take out this John Deere ceramic tractor my son made years ago that's on our wall of child art. So show and tell. Maybe we'll do show and tell in class. All right, here we go. So today we're going to look at three types of settlement patterns. So when you think of, this isn't really about farming per se or growing plants or raising animals, but on this land, it's a weird fit in this unit, let's be honest. There's three main types of ways people who live in settlements um, join, how they arrange themselves. So we have clustered settlements, which, think, surprise, they live in clusters. Dispersed settlements, surprise, they're dispersed throughout the land. And linear settlements, surprise, they live along a line, right? So easy to figure out. You'll see often it's called like a nuclear settlement or nucleated settlement for clustered settlements. AP board's going with clustered, so that's the one you're going to know. All right, so what are some of the features of clustered settlements? Think of like old school Europe. Is I want to say the origin, but one of the origins of these settlements. Boonton, New Jersey, the main part of Boonton, right? Like the main part of town where the high school is, that's a clustered settlement. The homes are near each other, right? If I go for a walk during lunch, I can pass hundreds of homes just walking like 2 miles. Their homes, they're near each other. It helps build a sense of community, right? You're near your neighbors. Kids can play. You go to schools nearby. You go share a playground nearby, right? It also helps to share resources. So, like today, it might just be like if you need to borrow something from a neighbor there nearby. Hey, it's snowing. I need your snow blower. But years ago, it might be because you shared a common field where your cattle grazed or where your chickens roamed, or it may be you had close access to a river that you used for fishing or for water access or something like that. So now there's different ways you can have clustered settlements. Where we are in North America, often it's in a grid pattern. Boonton is sort of like a grid pattern. Older Europe, it was often in circular patterns. That's an area that's still around in Germany today, but here in old Deutschland, the circular pattern was pretty common with like sometimes a common area in the middle. You may have learned about this stuff um, like back in middle school. Now, a dispersed settlement, you see this more often in North America than we saw. Obviously, you do see clustered settlements in North America. We just showed one where we are. But you do see clustered settlements in New Jersey. Definitely the more south and the more west you go, you see more and more. This is example, this is Ohio, right? So if you're to drive from New Jersey through Pennsylvania into Ohio, you're going to see lots of dispersed settlements. And as you keep going, you're going to see more. So here, a lot of the people have farmland, so you don't need homes all on top of each other. Therefore, the community is not quite as connected, right? It might take you a miles to see your neighbor. And how neighborly are you if you live that far away? You're more connected to your farmland. Think of America's history and the significance of property to our founding and as our values, life, liberty, pursuit of property, right? So it sort of makes sense that you're putting an emphasis on this. Think of Jefferson and his agricultural vision for America. This video, there's a lot less current event news type stuff we're talking, and we're talking more history. So yay, history, right? Linear settlements. This is where people put their main focus as transportation. So this might be where the homes live along a road. It may lie along a river. This is a pretty popular town for a linear settlement. This is Solasuza. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. That's in Poland. You'll find lots of photos of this online, and so many people say like, "Oh, that's AI." Like, there's no way there's one like main street and everyone lives along this main street. Incorrect. It does exist. So now let's look at how these settlements would get surveyed. So first, we're going to look at meets and bounds. This goes back to jolly old England, okay? And this is where you're going to mark your land. You're going to mark your survey your land. It's usually short distances, right? You're not usually like surveying gigantic plots here, but you're going to use meets and bounds. So meets is the mathematical description, right? It might run at at this latitude or latitude or this many feet from this point. It's going to run at this degree angle for 100 meters. Then it's going to turn 30 degrees for this many meters. It may also include landmarks, right? Like so it's going to run until like you hit this rock. It's going to run until you hit this river, right? Think of the, make a left at the red barn, right? Those kind of descriptions. And when you use those descriptions and you use those landmarks, it helps define space. It helps show areas you might value in a space, right? So this idea like combines a lot of concepts we've actually learned about this year. The bounds describe where the line actually borders. So like if it runs like until, you know, old Farmer John's farm or something like that. A long lot, this is similar to the linear method that we saw. This is also known as the French method because this was used a lot in old France. So this usually is in relationship to people's property along a river. It could be a road. But what happens here is you're giving everyone access to a resource. So think of like a long river and everyone having long, maybe skinny rectangular plots along the river. That way everyone has access to it. If you did it the other way, the person near the river would have the resource, but what about the subsequent lots afterwards, right? This is actually an aerial photograph from the lower Mississippi. So you see it's a long line. Now look, you can see some lots don't touch that river, right? That might be farming lots that belong to the ones that do own the river, but that's how they started. And lastly, let's look at township and range. So this has something in common with the clustered settlement that we saw in Butuan. Clustered settlements, like we saw the circular one, does not need to be in this way, though. This is once again is popular in North America. It does use survey methods. It can use landmarks, but it primarily uses a grid system. And we like to look at William Penn. And he was a very influential figure in bringing this system to America. Now, think about the founding of our country. Think about the Enlightenment. Think about using the scientific method. So think about bringing like all these ideas into now we're going to create this new country, these new settlements from scratch, right? Think of like that. And yes, of course, people were living here first, the Lenni Lenape. We know this, but like as they were settling this, and they're setting it from scratch, what do they think would be most effective? So William Penn had a few things in mind. He saw that in many of the clustered settlements in Europe, they were so close that fires spread. So he wanted people to have space, but he also saw the efficiency and practicality in having a grid system. So if you go to Philadelphia today, especially old city in Philadelphia, right, it's pretty easy to get around because you have the numbered city streets going in one direction, and you have the other streets, the arch, not arch, but like Walnut, Locust, going on the other way. You get an occasional Dock Street has a little turn into it, but for the most part, it is a grid like this. We also have the Land Ordinance of 1785, right? So if you remember your history here under the Articles of Confederation, you have all this new property. How's it going to set up? Well, it's using this township system with this grid. Every grid was like a mile by a mile. You had 6 on each side, and much of our country moving west, especially northwest, is set up like this. So here's a little reminder of William Penn really meticulously laid out like how the city was going to be set up. And what's the big square in the center? And that would be where City Hall is. All right. So yeah, I like it when videos get a little bit historical. Next, we're going to learn about agricultural origins and diffusions. This goes back to your middle school days as well, so stay tuned.